Welcome, friends, to another Dune video. Today we look at Norma Cenva and her journey to become the first Navigator. What drives her to change herself? Spoilers for the Battle of Corrin, let's get straight into it. Norma knew that the space folders could leap from point to point perfectly. It was guiding the ships around the many obstacles that littered the cosmos. That was the problem. A ship could not pass through a planet or star without its destruction. So, how to solve this? Currently a tenth of ships were lost in that way. For a short while, she had used fast-thinking computers to reduce those losses, but the rise of the army of the Jihad had stopped that. Like many others, when its benefits became known, Norma had started taking spice capsules. She rarely needed to sleep these days. She was so saturated with melange, and her body was showing some small imperfections. This was because of the large amounts of spice she consumed, but she would not stop. She needed the spice to stay alert and continue working on solutions for the ship problem that were plaguing her. She had already begun experimenting on taking the melange in different ways, solid, powder, gas, etc. She already knew large doses could open a hole in her mind, and she intended to take more to push what she was capable of. Norma took out a breathing mask, specially made, and exposed herself to the rusty orange swirl of spice, and she had a vision, a solution to her long-studied problem. The key was prescience, a way to forecast safe paths over distances by seeing where you might go and avoiding that path, the ones that led to planets and stars and your ship crashing into them. This made her own mind the navigation tool that would be used. With it, she could predict disasters before they occurred and plot a safe path to fold space around them. And so, seeing the best form of spice was gas, she planned the next stage. Full spice immersion, complete dependence. A crew made a transparent, airtight chamber for the task, and Norma installed herself inside. The chamber was connected to bottles of spice melange. She let the gas in and breathed it at a higher rate than ever before. The cells of her body swam in the cinnamon vapor, merging with it. She reached a level beyond that of folding space, till, as the book tells it, she felt a sculptress on a cosmic scale, working with planets and suns as if they were modelling clay. It was majestic and liberating. There she stayed with no sustenance, only spice. Here she was free to think, with no boundaries, her physical life placed on her, and though sealed within the walls of her tank, she voyaged far from it and discovered things. As the book describes it, she discovered a spectrum of unusual abilities, rose and fell in her mind like bubbles of possibility, largely beyond her control, as if some god were displaying them for her perusal, showing her a broad realm of wondrous possibilities. She could watch her son Adrian from afar as he worked for Vengi Enterprises. When he came to see her, she found it increasingly hard to speak with him, physically, and perhaps as her mind evolved, also mentally. The physical changes did not stop there. Her hands now were held together with webbing. Her mind evolved, but so did her body. The brain and skull itself enlarged, but her torso, arms and legs withered. Her asexual body was only there to contain her expanded mind. She no longer needed food or to produce waste. Her son wants to know what he can do to help her, but she could not communicate with him. But her son could see the physical changes she had undergone. Norma makes her intent clear. She feels that her son is worried about her and is going to take her out of the chamber, but using her hand, what remains of it at least, and the gas that has gathered on the inside of the chamber, she makes one word clear: no. And her son listens to her wishes. She was now permanently addicted to the spice, but loved her life in the tank, where her mind had no boundaries. She did not know even if she could leave anymore, because though confined she could travel, be put on one of the Venki ships and guide it through the labyrinths of folding space. The spice gave her all the nutrients she needed. Her direct physical senses were deadened, and she did not care about their losses. Those that did still function, hearing and eyesight, she needed to communicate with her son and his assistants, though her face had a small mouth and tiny eyes, but her head and her powers thus were immense. But what mattered was her prescience. She saw the future, reflections within reflections. In her mind she could perceive the entire universe, and she saw humans forming an interplanetary empire, and how all the planets bound within it, both minor and major, would be connected by her space-folding ships, guided by her navigators, the lifeblood of the Imperium, to be. And she would not always be alone as a navigator. Her son somehow found volunteers who were exposed like she was and mutated, and they would be navigating the ships in the future throughout the League and the unallied planets. So, now that the first Navigator has been created, friends, I turn things over to you. What do you think to Norma's journey and transformation? Do you feel the loss of so much of her physicality, but the enhancement of her mind is a thing worth risking? Have you been exposed to spice melange in a tank? Comment down below.